Anna, were we able to see the Michael that was previously admitted?
No.
Back on. Okay. I would like to give it back to Brooke and the applicant team here for just a few minutes, and then our board will discuss.
And Madam Vice Chair, I believe the city staff should also have an opportunity to
Yes,
clarify some points as well.
absolutely. We'll let Brooke speak, and then Anna, do you want to clarify, and then we can have Ms. Johnson wrap it up, or would you prefer a different order?
That is up to your discretion.
Okay, Brooke, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Are you sharing my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You guys can see me. I'm going to try to keep this within 2 minutes. And I do not want to spend my entire time disputing or correcting some of the comments that Deborah Neighbors made, but just one, I want to focus on. The Brown Estates Neighborhood Association president is Michael Jacobs, and that is a registered neighborhood association. And I believe he's the man who was on the line who was having trouble connecting. Okay. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little bit nervous, having a little technical difficulties here, but okay, here I go. Thank you for coming. I would like to quickly address the bigger picture management of the ever evolving ecosystem that is our farm and the Brown Estates neighborhood. Give me 2 seconds. Dan and I are deeply committed to the betterment of our land, which is our home, and the neighborhood in which it resides. We see the farm and compost hub as the beating heart of sustainability within the larger ecosystem. Like any ecosystem, the farm is constantly evolving to meet environmental and social demands. It is our utmost passion to serve our community, both hyper-local and beyond, and to evolve our practices accordingly. We are deeply touched by the long-time support we've received from majority of our neighborhood since our first community meeting in 2009. Since that meeting, we spent the last 15 years building not just soil, but relationships. In fact, the purchase of our property in 2010 was contingent upon neighborhood support of crop production, livestock, composting, and on-site sales, all of which was detailed in an 11-page proposal. Over the years, we've had an open dialogue with many of our neighbors where criticisms were graciously received and accommodations were quickly made. I'm telling you all from the bottom of my heart, we care. We want to find solutions. We want to see everyone thrive. As we strengthen our relationships with longtime supporters, we genuinely hope to gain the support and confidence of the few opposing neighbors. Many of which moved in after the farm was established. We look forward to clearing up these alleged violations so we can focus on real solutions that directly address the neighborhood concerns, traffic, smell, all of those things, real or perceived. We've been seeking mediation. I have letters to prove it, letters written to city council asking for professional mediation with Deborah and the others who testified. So it is something we are committed to and very open to. So, you know, while focusing on these real solutions, we would like to continue to do the climate-driven initiatives that are supported by thousands of metro area residents and is actually celebrating KC's climate resilience and protection plan. We are in discussions with the city manager's office about a road construction, directly from our Bennington entrance, as well as the construction of a visual buffer on our south fence line, which would cancel the view of people like Deborah from our farm and compost site. These are very, very costly improvements, but given the proper resources and time, we are committed to making them happen as soon as possible. The quicker we move past what I consider to be erroneous and arbitrary violations that don't address neighbor concerns, the sooner we can focus on solution-driven improvements and get back to doing the incredible life-giving work that we do best. So please, I just want the BZA to know and all the neighbors to know that we're committed to these solutions. We're reasonable people. These things take time, they cost money, and I just want you all to allow us, give us a grace period so we can work through this. And I think we can make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anna, city staff would like the opportunity to respond.
Stop video.
Yes, yes. Okay, so first I'm going to get into some more details for the 4 zoning violations, and then some additional things that were mentioned through public testimony and the applicant's presentation. So there's still a lot of talk about the 1,500 cubic yards. And we want to clarify that this was not like a hard and steadfast number that city staff were approving. We know that that was the intent for them to redirect that much amount of waste to their property. We also understand that the property can physically hold more than that. At this exact time, my calculations were only for the 5 bays, but during the applicant's presentation, they showed that there were 9 bays, and the neighborhood association also clarifies that there are 9 bays. So my number is smaller than what can actually be held on the property. Selling the compost and the intensity of the use and it being a primary use on the property with the farm is kind of what's really at hand for violation number 1. For violation number 2, at the time of investigation, there were multiple shipping containers on the site, as I presented in our investigation photographs. And it's the shipping container itself being used as the materials, being used as the storage facilities. That is not permitted by the zoning and development code at this time. There are ways to have a shipping container be approved as a permitted accessory structure, and that has not occurred. Additionally, on that note, there were some images that were shown of a barn being built around shipping containers that was permitted at one time. That permit has expired, and now the property owner is in the process of like reactivating that building permit. But as it stands right now, that permit is expired. And with violation 3, we're talking about the gravel drives and the gravel parking areas. So it's not just the drives, it's not just the access to the public right of way. We're all talking about any gravel parking areas as well. And the city managers intent or talks about constructing those items for them really isn't on the table at this time, since it's not been approved or adopted by ordinance or resolution. We're strictly talking about the violations as they are today. And selling the products on site, we've all been over several times that with their CSA or their approved urban farm, they are allowed to sell products or produce that they produce on site, but selling any products produced elsewhere on their property is not permitted at this time with the zoning district. Whether or not that component gets changed later through ordinance, to allow for those provisions to happen, again, not on the table right now. It is what is permissible right now with the zoning and development code. And the design professional said that they would need 8 to 10 months to develop the materials for the NPD application. City staff is still under the opinion that that is a long time to produce these materials for an NPD submission. We receive development plans and project plans and other special use permits that could require this the level of requirements for this application all the time, and 8 to 10 months is quite a long time. And let's not forget that when we had this discussion with the property owners back in June, let's say that there are a lot of design professionals who are very busy and there's a lot of work out there, and maybe they can't get to this project, that they would be 6-7 months into that a deadline right now if they had started the process fully back in June. The neighborhood serving retail point that the applicant team made, those provisions are only for existing structures. So think if you have like a little corner store within your neighborhood that's been there, you know, since the 30s and it's been vacant, but now the zoning has changed, and now full retail is not permitted there. Well, there's that neighborhood serving retail provision to allow for small scale retail uses to go into existing historic structures like that. And then to conclude with like, what is the effect of filing an appeal, and the appeal criteria? I want everyone to remember that the appeal criteria is about if city staff erred in applying the code to this specific property. The effect of filing the appeal is that it stays enforcement of the code enforcement violations, and any permits related to the item being appealed. That if the farm, regardless of the outcome of this hearing, is allowed to operate, that as a permitted use, the urban farming can continue. Use-wise, the composting facility is the only thing in question until a special use permit or an MPD is approved. And that we have, you know, given them that chance to file all of these documents, thus the 6-month continuance off docket that we addressed earlier. And that, yeah, I think I went over everything ad nauseum. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Anna. Board members, do we have any questions for city staff, applicant, others?
I have a question for staff, or a couple questions. What did staff find they were selling that was not produced on the property?
Yes, there's a bunch of online evidence that shows that there are different small producers, maybe restaurants, other farms that are being sold on the property.
What products?
Hold on. And I also want to open the floor for Mr. Duddy, who's the code enforcement officer supervisor, to jump in to shed any more light on the initial investigation.
I mean, you're talking about food that's being produced by restaurants that they're reselling?
They're selling dairy products, they're selling beef, they're selling other meats, they're selling beer. There's beer that's been advertised for sale. So it is a lot of other products.
That's not produced on the property.
Correct. They do not produce beef, and they do not produce lamb.
For Duddy,
Yes,
Yeah.
this is Tom Gorantz. Are they selling it actually on hand, or are they just taking the orders for another farmer?
that I cannot answer, but that does state that they do sell, as stated in the presentation, they do state that they have items to be picked up and paid for at the site.
Yeah, they'd have to have freezers or refrigeration then, so, okay, thank you. I do have a comment at the end of your, Randy.
I'm sorry?
That was for Randy. Thank you, Mr. Duddy.
Mr. Grant, you said you had a comment for me? Is that what you said?
I just have, as one board member, I just have a comment for our staff, board members. When I was growing up, we have a lot of farms.
Mr. Gorans, is this applicable to this case?
Yes, because
Okay.
without the farms, we didn't have the greenhouse effect. The climate was not a problem. Environmental and ecology was good. Without beehives, we'll all starve. So, you know, there's some positive just with them having that farm. On the
Mr. Gorans, I may let Ms. Johnson provide her response if that's all right.
oh yes, okay, I'm sorry, thanks.
Nope, you're good. Ms. Johnson, do you have any last comments? We'd like to wrap this up, so any final words you have would be great.
I'll try to be as quick as possible. Number one, I want to rebut the false impression that the property was purchased because of violations at a previous property. Specific to that history is that the codes were revised at that time because of Brook and Dan's operation, which was urban agriculture before we had an urban agriculture zoning code. That code was created to allow the uses at their prior property, but they decided to move. So the changes in the code happened after things were happening on their property to allow those types of uses. So the idea that they were violating and had to move somewhere else, that is just plain false. Number two, I wanted to just remind the board, these are individual and different distinct violations that can be decided separately. They're each complex in their own ways, and we should take the time to fully address each of them and not lump them together. It's not an all or nothing. The composting is an allowed use. It is, as we have shown through our evidence, it is within the approved amounts, and it complies with Missouri laws. There's nothing illegal about it. So the implication that there were other requirements that needed to be met. I specialize in solid waste in my other practice, and I understand that the facility is deemed exempt by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources from permitting requirements because it is so small. The multiple shipping containers, I'd like to address that. That was new information to us. We understood that the complaint was about one shipping container. And so my clients have not had the full opportunity to prepare, as Dan mentioned in his testimony, for some of the information that was presented today, even though we submitted a sunshine request asking for all of the information, including the opposition reports that were submitted in advance. Everybody got to see our cards in advance, but we did not get to see everyone else's, and that is not fair. For the CSA, I want to just say, you know, some of the information Mr. Duddy is alluding to is not true. They do not sell beer, for example. That is just not happening. As I indicated and Brooke indicated, we are willing to work toward long-term solutions that would allow each of these things to occur on the site through the expensive process of the MPD. It is going to take a long time. It's not just to address these violations. That document, as you guys are aware, those are used for long-term planning, for visionary planning, and the city has that information about lots of new ideas that Brooke and Dan have that will be pushing the edge of what is allowed under the codes. As far as education goes, the things that people were talking about that they value about what Brooke and Dan bring. And so the MPD is not just to address these issues, but it will address the issues. We just need time. And that's why it's going to cost $60,000 and take a year, and it has to be approved by the city council. So we appreciate you listening to all of that. I really appreciated what Ms. Clark said. I would appreciate, instead of focusing on this as a punitive and complaint-driven process, I hope you will honor the fact that my clients have consistently shown their willingness to be cooperative and work with the city to find solutions that are workable for everyone. And they, as you heard it from Brooke's mouth, they are willing to seek mediation, but things with certain neighbors have escalated to a point, as you heard, people yelling. There's been threats of physical violence. There have been things happening to customers from the neighbors that are just making people feel unsafe. And so they are willing, Brooke and Dan are willing to work towards solutions within reason, but these uses are allowed under the current zoning. That's my final statement. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I
Board
have
member,
one more question for Mr. Duddy. Did you find evidence that they were exceeding the 1,500 cubic yards of composting?
From their admission, they're bringing in 20,000 pounds of waste products a week. The presentation, I do not have the slide, but there was a slide presented earlier that showed the amount from their admission, 20,000 pounds a week. The slide showed the computations of what that broke down, what that alluded to.
Okay, I mean, I think they're saying they haven't exceeded 1,100 yards of composting, so and you're saying it's 20,000 instead of
Well, I'm
11?
saying that they state that it's 20,000 pounds. that was in the slide presentation. There, there was an equation shown to what that related to in tons or the amount that you're looking at.
Board, any other comments? Questions? Or any closed session needed?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as I was saying, I was happy to see they have beehives because without bees, we're all gonna starve. We all read and hear that every day, but I'd like to see more farms. I'll back up again. As far as the waste, no. Just want to say that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Other board members? Open for discussion or to entertain a motion?
I want to make a few comments. Essentially on everything as I see it, really from a real estate development perspective. Being that I kind of understand the dynamics of both sides. This is really an issue that is commonly occurs essentially in our East Side neighborhoods when there's no collaboration and effort to figure out best possible solutions. I would say I've seen quite a bit of contradicting information and kind of understand the frustrations on both sides when there isn't really active, engaging communication on finding real resolutions. I think Herbivore is a great asset to the city, but so is Brown Estates. And essentially what's happening is you see a situation where there is opportunity to improve a neighborhood, but the opportunity to be inclusive of everyone is being missed. And finding solutions and opportunities to really engage and involve the entire community. Community for me specifically is the Herbivore community as well as the Brown Estates community. Brown Estates essentially, you know, is a development that was promoting home ownership in these type of areas, in which a lot of those residents have been there for a while, knowing that some of them, you know, been there for multiple years. But I think the missed opportunity is for there to be some type of formal community benefits agreement that allows for planning and understanding of how to benefit the neighbors as a whole and also contribute to what Herbivore is trying to do from sustainability and resiliency scale. Also too, I did notice that there's a lot of talk about HOAs and neighborhood associations, but I don't see anybody registered on the parcel viewer. And even going through the NPD process, essentially everything that's happening now is going to happen again, my understanding, when they have to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission, if I'm correct. And so a lot of effort has been going forward and trying to keep these violations from passing, but not a lot of effort has really been going to finding a real resolution to make something beautiful happen here. There's a large opportunity to do something amazing with unutilized land here, but it has to be beneficial to everyone, it's particularly homeowners in that area. I do believe there are smell issues. I do believe there is traffic issues. I do believe there are other issues that as a homeowner, I would not want to live near, but there are ways to mitigate those issues through a proper, essentially, planning process. When businesses expand, they have to make sure they're expanding the way that is in compliance with what the city codes have in place, and essentially what is the reason for city codes. I think a lot of information and opportunity has been given to Herbivore to essentially find solutions to get to where they need to get to. But in the case of these violations, I think we as a board need to look at essentially, did staff error? And in my opinion, I don't think staff error.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Other board members?
Mark Ebbets here. I'm in sympathy with the with the group, I'd like to see them go on a more formal process to get all these resolved through the MPD. And that would be my thoughts on this matter. Thank you.
I think we've had a lot of,
And my thought would be have a stay on these 4 conditions for possibly 6 months to allow them to pursue the MPD and get back to us then. But again, I'm just one board member. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Ebbets. Maggie, you are on mute.
Sorry, dog problems. I agree with what Mr. Ebbets said, and I think the MPD is the more proper way of mediating all these disputes and bringing the neighborhood in. I mean, clearly they've got to get a handle on those traffic issues from the pictures the neighbors show. That doesn't look acceptable, having all those big trucks coming down their street. And I think they're going to have to spend some money on this, but I do think the MPD is a better process. And for us to try to shut them down while it takes, I mean, it's going to take 6 months at least. So I agree with what Mr. Ebbets said. I think we need to figure out a way to stay our procedure while and if they in good faith go through the MPD process.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Anna, if the board were to pursue the stay aspect, what would that entail from us? Or is that more of a continuance essentially in our?
Excuse me, it would be a continuance to a desired date. And my staff recommendation would be for there to be a very strict condition associated with that continuance on, well, what happens if we don't receive the application in whatever time is allotted. Similar to what we discussed for the continuance off docket.
I thought they said there was an application now.
There is no application in. They have yet to formally, and Ms. Johnson can correct, they're in discussions with a design professional. No design professional has officially been secured.
That's correct. We do have a contract that was just given to us at the end of last week by GLMV, who you heard from, Victor Burks. So we have a contract that's ready. We also they are putting out multiple bids because this is an expensive process to review professionals. And the estimated timeline, minimum timeline for a permit application is, I believe he said 90 days. But for implementation of the MPD, it would be a much longer period, which he said was 8 to 12 months. And I'm sorry if I misheard or stated those things incorrectly from his testimony.
But if you applied for it, then it would be in the city council's hands and out of ours. So I think we're really interested in you applying for that, and or I am.
For understanding for me, even if they apply, the violations still stand until it gets through the full process. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so even if they go through the process and submit application, the violations still stand until they have their MPD approved.
Right, but if we continued our case, they wouldn't be prosecuted. They wouldn't be taken to court over those violations. If staff disagrees with me, correct me, but that's my understanding.
Duddy and Elward, can you clarify?
From the municipal court point of view, the board would be allowing illegal actions to continue.
And again, from staff testimony, essentially they won't have to shut down. They'll just have to, is it minimize composting activities or shut down composting activities?
Minimize.
Yeah, from a legal standpoint, a continuance of this case essentially pauses their violations such that the city couldn't act on the notice of violation.
Would it be reasonable for us to continue it for, what would it be, 3 months until April? And expect them to come back and tell us the solutions they've come up with for the traffic issues for the upcoming season, which I believe they said starts in mid-April. And to show us that they've actually applied for the MPD, because that would be 90 days, I think.
But I think to go through this whole MPD process is going to take, I mean, if we're trying to do it as more of a check-in piece, maybe that would work. But I think this process, it will just take a significant amount of time, and I don't know how much they'll be able to deliver in 3 months, depending how they get people on board and how far they can get in that amount of time.
But I thought Ms. Johnson said they could apply for it within 90 days.
I thought that was talking about the permitting process was 90 days.
If you want me to clarify,
Yes, please.
what I was saying is that an application could be submitted in a shorter amount of time. And I believe he said 90 days. I'm relying on Victor's testimony.
To me, the important things are that they get the application in and that they do something to address this traffic before the coming season, because the neighbors should not have to put up with that traffic again this year when their operations get up and going.
Victor, do you want to comment?
Yes, I think that's correct. An application, once we receive a signed contract, we could have the documents created and an application submitted, but then the back and forth process, you know, I have no way of predicting that as far as the negotiation as to what is agreed to.
Thank you.
Board, how do we want to proceed?
I mean, the case has essentially been submitted, so I don't think if we continued it to April, I don't think we would need to reopen any evidence, but just for a report back on how they're going to deal with the traffic and get it off that street. And on them having applied for the MPD. That would be what I would move unless someone has another idea or an objection to that.
And Ms. Moran, I'd like to see it go out a little bit farther. I still like the 6 month. That allows them to really get with the neighbors, kind of get everything settled. And if they don't do anything in 6 months, we enforce all the penalties we can.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. They said they were going to start up operations in April, and I'm worried that they're not going to do anything to address the traffic before then. So, but yeah, 6 months is just, that would be fine with me also.
They
Hey, Ms.
planning-
Johnson. Hey, Ms. Johnson. Hey, so Mark Ebbets here. So I would strongly encourage your clients to address these traffic issues in the coming months.
So my
Okay.
question on that is, you know, the parcel viewer shows these are public streets, and I'm trying to understand what is the concern. Is it the number of cars? Is it the type of vehicles? Because I've provided some information to show, you know, what traffic does exist. But I would like to understand what you're asking me for in a report back.
Well, they're public streets, but they're residential streets. I mean, we generally don't approve uses that cause a bunch of dump trucks and very large trucks to be going down a neighborhood street. So
So the concern is more with the larger deliveries. The dump trucks of the composting
those are
materials.
the pictures I saw that concerned me.
All right, Chairman Mixdorf, I have a motion.
All
If
right.
no one else has any comments, we have beat this horse for a while. So,
I have
And-
a couple of
and-
comments.
Oh, my
Sorry.
show.
okay,
My
I'm
show.
sorry, Misha.
Yeah, if I heard correctly, did James Duddy essentially say that if we extend this, we're essentially allowing illegal activities for another 6 months.
That is what Mr. Deddy said, correct?
Yeah, that's the only problem I have.
Which this isn't unlike other cases we've had in the past. Well, the context of this case is different, but when there are violations, there are times where we give people the opportunity to remedy those, and it does take time. Obviously, this started a while back as well. So it's not unprecedented, I guess, to give the applicant time to remedy things as part of the process. But
I would also just point of order, Duddy is not the legal representation for the city. And what I thought I heard was the lawyer saying something different afterward, that it's not illegal activity because if you grant a continuance, there is not a decision on the record about whether it is in compliance or not in compliance, and it allows more time to resolve. So it's not continuing illegal activity from a legal perspective.
Maisha, did you have additional comments or questions?
So essentially, we're giving them 6 months to find solutions on all 4 violations, or are we just going to allow them 6 months just on violation number 3, which is vehicular use in traffic?
I think that's up for the board to determine how we want to proceed based
I
on.
would think it'd be all the violations because they're gonna try to address everything through the MPD process, so.
Right, but the MPD process is just them submitting the application. It doesn't remedy anything until that process is done, until they're granted MPD. And the reason I'm asking these questions, because essentially we're giving them a year.
Well, hopefully, but they're gonna make improvements. Particularly, my particular concern is the traffic.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll make improvements and, let us know that they've made those within the 6 months. That's not dependent on the MPD. They can find a way to fix these traffic issues.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Tom.
the traffic won't start up until late spring, July. The planting season is in April. So won't start having the traffic until producing.
Potentially that's on the applicant to provide that information. But I think back to what Anna had noted before, if we were looking at continuing, we need to have clear expectations on what we expect to make sure we can hold them accountable as such.
Okay, I think Mr. Evans had a motion.
Yeah, I'll bring back up the motion again. That in case number 49, we give them a 6-month continuance and stay the enforcement on these items for 6 months to allow them to come up with a complete MPD. And failure to do so, no, I won't finish that. So give them 6 months to come up with an MPD, and we stay enforcement on these 4 items until that time.
Mark, can I add for some
application.
clarity?
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
going to grant an additional 6 months for them to get an MPD approved or just filed. And I do really think we need if they don't meet those conditions, what happens? I think that needs to be on the
Well,
record.
okay. So again, without talking about the motion itself for a moment, my intent was for them to come up with an MPD. Failure for them to come up with an MPD would result immediate enforcement of these 4 violations. And I don't know whether that's a application, Anna, or whether that's the actual approval of the MPD, because I think the approval could take some time going through council and other chambers to get it done. So, but this is a business that wants to stay in business, and I don't think they're going to sit on their haunches and wait for 6 months and come back before us like they did this last time. They've taken the efforts over the last month to retain Ms. Johnson as an attorney and other methods in order for them to continue this business they want to keep active. Yes. So. I know, what do you suggest? Is that an effective, for the city side, give them 6 months, and if they're not being active in the MPD process, we enforce the violations?
So what I'm hearing is that the motion is to grant an additional 6-month continuance to allow for them to apply for their MPD. If the MPD is not submitted by June or July, counting to 6 months from today, at that Board of Zoning Adjustment hearing, the appeal cases would be dismissed, so then full enforcement of the zoning and development code can be enforced. That's what I hear you saying. I'm not gonna comment
And I'm
on city
telling you,
staff's support on that or
that's
not.
that is a great motion. And I will echo those comments to the board from Anna and ask us to vote on that if I hear a second.
Second.
Can I get another understanding again of what Anna said? Essentially, if we're granting them 6 months and they completed the MPD process, meaning they're officially zoned MPD, or if they submit an application by that time, then
Mark said, make
it
an
was-
application within 6 months. Then at the July 9th Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting, they failed to do that. The cases would be dismissed.
okay, but if they do submit the application, then we enforce the violation still, or no?
Usually not, Miss Wright, because that would have been taken out of our hands at that point. They're now before the council, and the MPD process is not really a BZA process, ma'am, at that point, if I
Okay.
understand our responsibilities.
Yeah, but I think that's what I asked before, is that even if they're in the application process, these violations still stand.
Yeah, they stand for 6 months in abatement until 6 months from now, till they get the MPD process going.
So Maisha, you could suggest a shorter time frame if you don't agree with the time frame identified in that motion, just for clarity.
Right, yeah.
Well, but I think we need to vote on the motion because there's been a
Yeah.
second.
So there's been a motion from Mr. Ebbets.
Miss
Is there-
Moran second, no, Goran seconded.
No, is there a second on that motion? Miss Wright had questions in between, so is there a second on that motion?
Tom, I thought you seconded it.
I second yours.
That's what we're talking about, Tom.
Yes, I did.
So I have a motion and a second.
Yes.
I agree. Anna?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Gorance?
Yeah. Aye.
Aye. Moran?
Aye.
Moran? Or excuse me, Nixdorf, sorry.
No,
I,
Mixdorf is chair.
Well.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
we've been going
just-
out of order all day.
Yeah, standard list. Right,
Nay,
and Ebbets.
Aye. And Mixie, did you vote?
When she called my name, I said aye. Chair votes with the motion.
So
4 to
that
1.
motion passes for the additional 6 months.
Right.
So we anticipate from city staff will communicate, Ms. Johnson, with your team, that this process will have been started, and as the motion was outlined, that we see progress when we see you next, to make sure this is moving along as it's supposed to be.
Great, thank you. Can I just clarify one point? I would like to make sure the board understands that
Ms. Johnson, you're out of order. We voted and we're done. Thank you. Excuse me, Ms. Mixdorf, for saying that.
But you
Okay.
can talk to staff to get any clarification.
Yeah, staff will help
Yeah.
with any clarifications.
Correct. All right, and to city staff, I apologize. I told us to take that first case. It's been 2 hours, so I apologize.
I
What
would.
kind of time do we need, Randy?
I think it's
Well,
been
we
3.
haven't not taken a lunch break yet either. But at this point, maybe, I don't know how that works with city staff, but we also have a lot of cases that we have not even gotten to. So I don't know, it is 3:10. We typically wrap up our hearing at 4 PM. We had shifted docket items number 2 and 3 to the middle of the day, but beyond those two, I guess I'll lean on city staff. Do we think we'll even get to any of the others that are currently on the list?
I think if we take a break now, Ebbets, can you clarify when you're leaving today?
I'm good. I'm good till 6 o'clock, 5 PM your time, 5
Okay.
PM.
Gotcha. So
How about out the rest of the board? Is the rest of the board good until 5 PM or so if we were to run long today?
Yes.
yeah, because I was just worried about docket item 2 and 3 that have the required quorum of Ebbets. Our city staff does need, and then the board also, needs a break.
Right.
So we'll just pick up with 2 and 3 when we return,
Right.
but I don't think we'll make it through the entire docket.
So do we want to identify, perhaps like docket number 18 and beyond would then be moved to our next hearing? Or is there a number that would make sense so the people that are maybe not heard today are not, I'm sure they've already been on for a long time, but to help kind of free up some of their day yet?
I would say that with 2, 3, 11, and 13, those are all 12, 11, and 13 are appeal cases. Maybe we'll get to 15, but that would be like really pushing it if it's fair to say that anything after 18 would be continued to February at the rate we're going right now.
Do we want to move to continue that, or if any of the applicants are in the audience to provide commentary regarding a continuance? Or what is that process? I'd rather be able to free up people now instead of them waiting for another 2 hours if we don't get to their case today.
Correct. So if you want to make a motion to continue 18 through 22 that haven't already been addressed with a continuance to February, then you can also call for public testimony on those continuance requests and see who's online, and then go from there.
All right. Does anybody want to make that motion, or do I need to make that one myself?
No, I'll do it.
All right.
Chairman Mixdorf, in cases 18 through 22, I move those be continued to our February docket with no fee.
But we need public.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's up for discussion. Let's take public testimony on
Yes.
continuing 18, 19, 21, and 22. Sorry if I misspoke before, but
Okay.
let's hear that before.
So anyone still in the audience for cases number 18, 19, 21, or 22 regarding the potential continuance of them to another hearing?
We
Due to
have-
timing constraints today.
We have Jason Waldron, Bree,
Yeah, that's the Ward Parkway case.
Chip, who I believe is for 13, which we're not considering at this time, but I'll still admit them. And then Deborah Neighbors has raised their hand. And Deborah, remember, this is just for the continuance of 18, 19, 20, and 21. Oh, they've raised their
21 and
hand.
22.
21 and 22, excuse me, yes. Erwin, who's for 18, I believe. Okay, let's start with Jason.
Yeah, hi, my name is Jason Waldron, Transportation Director and Public Works for the city of Kansas City, Missouri. Sorry for the clumsiness. I had some security come in here with the snow day and all that good stuff. But anyways, we are 22 and it is related to an active construction project, the streetcar extension. I understand. Hey, my heart goes out to you guys. You guys have had a long day. I don't think I'm ever allowed to complain about a council committee meeting again after this, but it would be really grateful and appreciative if you could hear 22. And I'll say this: if there's any reservations initially in the conversation, we can hold it. But I'm hopeful it's not. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents as long as you gave me the opportunity. And thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, Erwin, what docket number are you for?
That I don't know because I don't have a list of document numbers in front of me. I never did receive one.
Do you have an
18.
address? 18?
18.
18.
Four
Do you
two.
oppose a continuance to February?
Okay, so it's being continued to February then?
It's being proposed. We're looking for public comment on if we should proceed with that continuance.
Well, my client's been waiting for quite some time to get a building permit, so if he has to, he has to, but we'd like to get it done quicker than that.
Okay?
So
Do you have any other?
it's up to the board whether they want to, make room for us today or continue it till February.
I think we're just trying to be respectful of time as well, because it is highly unlikely that we will get to all of these cases yet today.
I
We typically
understand.
end at 4 p.m. I think we're going to run a little bit longer today to try and get through as many as we can, but I still don't believe, after the cases that we've heard, that we will make it through this full list.
Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll stick online. I've been with you since 9 o'clock, so I might as well stick to the end.
Okay,
If you get to 18, then fine. If not, then I'll have to explain it to my client.
okay. Have any-
I'm sorry, I see a comment from my other case, with Rebuild LLC. Your case number is number 19.
Do we have comment from them?
Is that the Kelly Road address, Connor?
Yes, it is. If you would like to provide comment, please use the raise hand feature.
Chairman Mixdorf, we can't get to all these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're spending a lot of time
Yeah, it's-
talking
We're
spending a lot
about.
of time
way
on-
longer
on
than I expected.
Stuff, yeah. So I think well, you're the chair, but maybe we just go as far as we can and that's it.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
So with
Okay.
that, is it time for a lunch break, I guess?
Let's take a break.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
10
is
minute,
that-
15, maybe. I don't know. What does everybody need?
What city staff, what is a requirement for a lunch? Could we shorten this and compress this lunch to just be like a 15, or do we need to do like 20 or 30 to meet requirements?
Give me,
I do apologize. This is Chip Walsh. I'm on case 13. It was not one of the ones being proposed. However, I'm at a location that has lost power. So I'm currently on a battery for my laptop, and it will not make it to the time that you are going to likely get to me. So
Okay.
I'm kind of in a difficult position. And trying to see if there could be some consideration given the weather situation. So lost power here about 90 minutes ago.
Or do we want to just continue that case, or what's the best path forward with that one?
It
Is that what
says,
you're asking
it
for?
says dismiss. Is there something I'm missing?
The staff says dismissal, but the owner does want a hearing.
We were proposing, the staff recommendation for dismiss is that we were trying to remedy. We received word late last week that the remedy would not work. So we wanted to go ahead with the hearing on whether
All
there
right,
was
Chip,
error
that's
in the
enough.
judgment.
yeah, we can
Chip,
talk about the merits of the case.
Yep.
So
Okay.
But are you asking that it be continued because of your electrical?
I'm
Okay.
asking you to continue because I'm not going to have the ability to appear
Okay.
virtually by the
Okay.
time you get to me.
Okay.
So, and it'll be after your normal end of day of 4 o'clock. So I don't think
Okay.
it's unreasonable given these circumstances.
I move that we continue docket item number 13 to the February docket, and that's case number 142.
Second,
I have a motion, I have a second. Anna, can you call the roll?
where'd you go?
Sorry, just flipping to the right page. Gorntz,
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Mixdorf,
Aye.
right.
Aye.
Okay,
Evis says aye. Yes.
Thank you for your consideration. Sorry to interrupt.
We'll
No,
see,
thank
we'll
you.
see you in February.
okay, so with that, Anna, what is an appropriate break amount of time?
Yep, due to our policies, there's not like a standard set time. Oh, so we could do 15, 30, whatever the board desires.
How about 20? That
Okay,
seems
20? Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Come back at 3:40.
okay.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. See you
All right.
soon.
Camera.
Can we have Connor and Stephanie to confirm that they are online as well?
I'm online.
Yes, I'm here.
And Elward?
I'm here.
Okay, so once when Mark gets off his call, then we can proceed. And Tom, you are not on these next two cases. So if you want to shut your camera off, you're not on the quorum for docket number 2 or number 3. Perfect. Mark, are you ready to go? All right, Anna, do you want to call the
Ready
next
to go.
case?
Yep. We're focusing on docket item number 2. This is case CD BZA 2023-00160 for 848 West 52nd Terrace. This is a request to approve a variance to allow for an accessory structure in the street side yard, plus any other necessary needed variances in an R10 zoning district, which is a residential zoning district on about 0.46 acres, generally located at 848 West 52nd Terrace. This case was continued a month to today to allow for the design team to change the proposal. So we have heard this before. Stephanie Saldari is the staff planner associated with the case. So we are looking for Jacques LeBlanc as the designee for the applicant team. And if any other members of the general public who wishes to provide public testimony on this particular item, please raise your hand now so we can admit you. As once there's Jock, let me pause my thought real quick and let him in. As once public testimony has begun, we're not going to move future attendees to the panelist position. So we've got, take my notes. Amy, I'm going to promote you. Patricia Lewis. Bridget Grams. Leslie Hatfield. And Abri.
If everyone can turn on your cameras and unmute your microphones, we'll swear you in. John, Patricia, Amy, Bridget. There's one more, right? Abri, perhaps?
Bree has not accepted the promotion.
We will proceed with you all
Yeah.
at the moment. Okay, perfect. Can you all raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth during this meeting today? Say I do and state your name.
I do, Amy Hiles.
Jacques LeBlanc.
Amy
I do,
Hiles.
Bridget Grams.
Jacques Le-
I do, Alan Galen.
I do, Patricia Lewis.
Thank you. So Jacques, we're not hearing a whole staff report again since we've already heard this one in the past. Is that accurate, Anna?
That is up to the board's discretion.
Perfect. Jacques, have you, and there's not really much to review in the staff report since we saw this last month, so I assume you're good with proceeding with that.
I
And
am.
the existing exhibits, I assume, still apply, whatever we had admitted last time?
Yes, they do. We added a couple of exhibits since then of some renderings.
And have those been sent to Anna, or those need to be added as additional exhibits?
They had been sent to Stephanie and Anna. Yeah.
And are those included in the staff report?
No, the staff report was not revised because
Okay,
the change of design that they're choosing not to move forward with that. They want to proceed forward with the original request.
Okay.
When Jock gives his update, we do need to admit the additional exhibit. And Stephanie, if you can get to it before me, we'll see which number it actually is. I know I put it on Compass KC.
Yes. I'll have to double check. I believe it'll be exhibit 11. Because number 10 is public testimony.
If we have that confirmed, we can.
Here, let me double check.
In the previous staff report, we had 1 through 9 listed.
Let's see. Yes, and
And
then, oh, sorry, Anna.
No worries. And she's correct that Exhibit 10 is the written public testimony attached to this case, and 11 are going to be the renderings that Jacques referencing.
Okay, perfect. We'll omit exhibit 11 then whenever Jacques is ready to show that. Board members, do you need Anna to review this overall case, or should we dive into what Jacques is proposing now? Mark, you're muted. Or sorry, I meant Stephanie, not Anna.
I feel pretty good about not going over the staff report. I kind of remember this from last month, so.
Okay.
But I yield to other people.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay, I will show the new renderings Jacques sent me and just kind of, and then show you the site plan again. So that's a little refresher, but I won't go over
Perfect.
like super detailed. All right, let me share my screen real quick. All right, so let me.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your cruise director, Les.
So let me. All right, so as a reminder, this is in Lewis Park. This a fireplace, 48 inches high is what they're proposing, and it is here in what is technically the side yard as defined by the code. This is what it looks like now. Construction has started, and the owner did not want to redesign, but they Jacques submitted pictures of what they're expecting it to look like once it's fully built. And this is just from the front. And again, this would be a complete deviation. All right, any questions?
And then for me, board members, any questions for city staff?
And there has been Exhibit 10. I compiled all the public testimony in favor and against for you all to look at.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll stop sharing.
Jacques, can you give us an overview or kind of where you landed or why you landed where you still are?
Sure. So we wanted to basically prepare the renderings, so give everybody a clearer picture of what the end product was supposed to look like in reference to the actual home, and to show that the scale wasn't something huge or exorbitant out there. But there's another point of clarification that I wanted to make sure everybody understood, because in reading some of the letters that were submitted, it became very evident to me that there's some confusion by the public as to what is actually being applied for as the variance. That the variance is only applicable to the fireplace structure itself, but not applicable to the patio area, nor the walls around the patio, nor the planters in the front yard, in that yard. Those are all permissible in a side yard. So in reading the letters that I got to read, it became very clear to me that many people seem to understand that the entire patio area and the walls around it are also under consideration for this variance. So I wanted to make sure everybody understood that they're not. That really we're only trying to get approval for the fireplace itself. And by submitting the renderings, we were hoping that getting people a better contextual understanding of what that was going to look like in reference to the scale of the home, that would give people a better feel for how it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Would you mind pulling those renderings back up on the screen, Stephanie?
Yes. Yes, and I apologize. I did forget to clarify. Yes, the variance is only for the fireplace. The walls or planters are considered under like chapter 27. That's like a fence essentially. So, but the fireplace does not meet those regulations, so only the fireplace.
Can you zoom in a little bit or?
Yeah, I should be able to zoom in.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Jacques, obviously we heard you got different letters here in support and opposition. Is there anything else you wanted to address in regarding those letters? If not, open up to any other board comments before addressing the others that are wanting to provide testimony.
Jock,
Not
is that,
really.
is that tree, that seems like that tree is right in the center of things. Is that going to stay or is that gone or what's the
It's staying.
status? of that?
It's
The big-
staying.
What?
The big tree that I'm looking at right now.
It's staying intact.
Okay. Just seems like it blocks kind of the
No,
house.
actually, it with it's a dead tree, so it's actually already come
It's
down.
already been removed.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
We've
not
not
there.
opened public testimony. We
Sorry.
need those members to stay silent until we get to that portion of the meeting. Stephanie, can you go back to the existing conditions?
Mhm.
Slide 6.
Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go.
There are actually photos that some of the exhibit or the letters submitted that have to show the home that's further along than that now. If that is something you wanted to share, but I'm not sure if it matters.
Board members, would you like to see those additional photos?
Kind of, because you're redesigning the front. Is that right, Jock?
No, we did not redesign the front.
They want to proceed as originally designed.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, we were wanting to give more clarity to what we were looking to do. And that's why we prepared the renderings to help that process.
Okay.
But since this photo was taken, all of the brick is completed on the home. The home itself looks pretty much complete at this point. But obviously not a whole lot else has happened on the front while we wait for this process to work itself out. The sidewalk has been installed out to the street. So that's in place now as well. So we're just sort of waiting for this before we kind of wrap things up.
So Jock, could we see those photos real quick? I know I'm trying to speed the meeting. We're trying to speed the meeting along. If you can share that screen real quick.
Oh, they were submitted, they're in the docket. Stephanie has them.
Mhm.
They were submitted with some of the letters that were. Can you pull those up,
Let
Stephanie?
me, one sec.
And they pretty much look like the rendering at this point, but
Mhm.
at least you'll get to see photos. And I just want to clarify one thing, Stephanie, when she was showing the drawing of the fireplace, she said, I think it was 4 feet tall and it's actually 5 feet tall.
Okay, here is, can you see that?
No.
No. Just see the
Okay.
the PowerPoint
Oh,
stuff.
okay. It didn't. Here, let me pull that. Okay. So it only shows tabs and not the whole screen, it looks like. All right.
There we go.
Yes.
Now I can see it.
Yes, here's one picture and then another picture. Okay.
Like that's the original rendering.
Yes. And then here's one.
That's a rendering also.
Yes, going through all the pictures.
There
Is
we
this the rendering? Okay.
That's photo, yeah.
Yes, we have one here, another one here. This one.
The tree's gone.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is showing the height. And this one. All right.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mhm.
Board members, any questions for the applicant? Now we'll open up to the other testimony. Hearing none. Let's open it up to.
Amy, you're first.
Yep.
Amy is first, is that what you said?
Yes, if that's okay.
Okay, hi guys. I am without power and really cold and on my phone, so I can't screen share because I've lost Wi-Fi. So actually the images that you were just showing that had the original rendering, the new renderings, and then the images from the street was from what I submitted. Could you screen share that again, Stephanie? Thank you.
All right.
So I live, if we go up to the first image, which is the original rendering, I'm a former member of the board for the LPHA. I was not on the board when this project began. I stepped off a couple of years ago. Originally, this homeowner asked for the support of the neighborhood, gave us this rendering as well as a sketch of the side yard and yard, and explained what they wanted to do, and received the full support of the neighborhood. At some point later, they decided to do something different without alerting the neighborhood or the BZA. When this was called to the homeowner's attention, he said, no, it's always been going to be a fireplace. And then it eventually made its way back around to you guys. So I was unable to attend last month's meeting due to illness. I had COVID. But since we're still discussing it, when we look at the second rendering, that is the newer rendering, continuing with the same plan as it's described, you'll see that there is both trees as represented on the property, which I think create a diminishing effect of the actual size of this fireplace, as well as an elevation change that does not exist moving from west to east. In addition, if you look at the newer images and compare them to the rendering, you will, and I don't know if you guys can see this, and I'm just holding it up, the fireplace here looks very short. It only accomplishes covering up one of the window bays below. But if you look at the actual image shot from the street, you'll see that it covers up quite a bit more than that and does not look the same. And I, of course, can't see myself since
Here.
I'm on my phone.
I think I'm showing what you're showing, Amy.
Okay, thank you. So basically, you know, for me, this feels like a bait and switch maneuver. The neighborhood was sold one thing. We were told that this was platted as a side yard. However, all of the homes on 52nd Terrace do face 52nd Terrace, as did the home the homeowners tore down. It also observed the 50-foot setback, as do all the homes on 52nd Terrace. And in fact, if you drive throughout the Lewis Park Homes Association, you will not see an accessory structure of this size in anyone else's front yard. Now, I realize that they're claiming that this is side yard based on the plat. However, when they wanted to move closer to the Henry's address directly to the east, this was designated as their front door so that they could move into a tighter setback on that side. You cannot have 4 side yards. So this is either the front yard or a side yard. And I would argue that their front door is clearly in that image, and that it faces 52nd Terrace, and that the intent of this yard is to be a front yard. And this is not a restaurant. This is a home. We cannot kind of create a slippery slope where people are allowed to just put whatever they want into the setbacks on the street. And while I recognize that in our backyards and in many of our side yards over the last 100 years or almost 100 years of Lewis Park Homes, we have variances that have occurred. We have consistently observed front yards, and that's important both from a real estate resale, it's important from symmetry, and it's a fairness for the neighborhood. I have many other thoughts on it, but I think that's most of them.
Thank you, Amy. Who is next on the list, Anna?
Patricia?
Hi there, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I agree with everything that Amy said. I'm here to provide testimony in opposition of the variance. And I think it is a little confusing. I just live a few blocks away in the neighborhood. There was discussion of just the fireplace. Is it 48 inches, 64 inches? And then as we looked in and got information from the staff report, the staff report says, according to section 88-305-02-B, setbacks and separations, accessory buildings and structures are prohibited in the front and street side yards. So regardless of whether they're saying this is the front or the side, these types of variances aren't allowed. And to Amy's point in the picture I submitted, if you look down that street or any of the streets in the neighborhood, nothing encroaches the street like this property. It is a beautiful home, and I, am excited that they are building it, and I hate to be, speaking in opposition, but as Amy mentioned, and I mentioned in my testimony, I think we're creating a slippery slope. There'd be no stopping anyone from wanting to put an outdoor kitchen in their front yard, within a few feet of the street if this was allowed. And I think Amy covered most of it, but just here to be in opposition.
Thank you, Patricia. Board members, do you have any questions? Some testimony that we've heard thus far? If not, we'll turn it over to Bridget. Do you have other comments you would like to provide? Bridget, take it away.
First, I just wanted to talk to Amy's comment about it being a bait and switch from the original thing that we had presented to the neighbors. That was just a rendering. It was just something to say, hey, we're coming to the neighborhood. Here's a bottle of wine, and here's something that we're wanting to build. We don't have to submit to our neighbors our plans. That is what we, submit to the city. And so it's too bad that that's been taken so literally. But that's, I don't know what else to really say about that. Do you want to say anything, Ellen?
Yeah, or I would say that, this was, this is our second variance hearing, and we were approved on the first one. And I think the confusion here is, unfortunately, we certainly understand that the front yard looks like it is, but the city says it's not. The city says it's the side yard, and the city says the other side is facing Bellevue is the front yard. And that's why we had to go through the original variance in order to, and we had to replace the entire drawings of what we originally thought, because we thought it was the front side, but it's not. So therefore, legally, it is the side yard. Whether the front door is there or not, we wouldn't have had to go through the first variance if that was the case.
Well, technically, you would have had to go through the first variance if it were the front yard, if it were platted in the original way, because you would have been asking for a structure, an accessory structure in the front yard. If it were platted in the way that everybody assumed it would have been platted.
We would have known that the setbacks were different at that point. Jacques wouldn't have drawn on there from getting information from the staff of the city. They would have said, you can't do that.
I would also say on the bait and switch comment, and I apologize if that language was offensive, but we were also provided with a sketch that demonstrated it wasn't just the rendering, but at the time when we received this, we were also provided with a sketch that showed the plan as we understood it. And it seemed as though that was your intent, and that was how it was presented to LPHA.
Well, the plan was submitted to the city with the fireplace. Correct, Jacques?
Yes, it was. The plan always had the front patio area with a fireplace, and at the time, we actually had a circular drive between the patio area and the street.
But you weren't happy about, Amy, and is now not on the front yard, so I thought you'd be happy about that.
I don't care about this. I don't think I ever said a word about the circle drive.
Sorry, I think we're getting into the weeds a little bit here, everyone. Anna, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to address the back and forth, and that we need to have, like 2 minutes for this person, 2 minutes for that person, rebuttal, if approved by the BZA, et cetera.
Yep, I think we've heard from everyone. Jacques, if there's anything else you would like to add based on these comments, and then the board, and then we can go to a motion.
Well, I don't know
Is there a
really
Leslie
matters.
online? Sorry. They want to provide testimony?
Were they not admitted when we asked for testimony previously?
My apologies, that my notes are incorrect. Proceed forward.
Okay, thank you. Go for it, Jacques.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether it's even a point of whether it's even a relevant point or not. What was shown to the neighborhood association in the earlier days at the time when the project was submitted to the city for permitting, that yard had a circular drive, a terrace, and a fireplace included in those permit plans, and they actually were approved So the fireplace at that time, which is the reason the construction of the fireplace happened, is they were on the approved set of building permit plans. So that's why they built it. And it wasn't until the construction occurred that I think one of the neighbors raised objection or something. And that's when it got flagged as a problem. So I think it was basically the city, an oversight by the city, who reviewed the plans to actually not flag the fireplace as requiring a variance at any time, and allowing the permit to be approved as such. So I just want to make sure everybody understands how this all played out. The fireplace was always on the drawings.
Thank you, Jacques. Board members, any questions?
Can I provide some clarity real quick while
Yes.
BZA thinks about questions? So as Stephanie mentioned, the setback that we're looking at in question is the street side yard. It is technically not the front setback for this property due to the layout. I know Stephanie mentioned all of that in her first presentation, but an accessory structure of this nature is not permitted in the street side yard setback. The dimensions for a street side yard can usually be similar to a front setback, depending on situation. The original variance request was for the rear setback for the lot. And in between that variance request and building permits, the plans provided more detail, which is when city staff caught the fireplace in this location. Stephanie, you have the review for this particular fireplace, and since this pending variance case, that particular review has not been approved. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think when that driveway was taken out and then resubmitted, because the size of the patio and all that was changed, I got that review, and then that's when I caught it, and determined that a variance is needed.
Thank you. Mark, it looks like you have something to say.
Excuse the noise in the background. Jock, it seems like the homeowners switched the plans, and I guess that's my problem. You had neighborhood approval when it was originally, and now it's changed. And that's my comment.
The only switch was that the circular drive was removed and the patio was made larger.
Just a big switch.
But I mean, there's an implication that the fireplace somehow appeared out of nowhere. The fireplace was always on the plans. It was permitted with the fireplace on the plans. The only change was that the circular drive was removed from the plans and that the patio was made larger, which pulled the fireplace closer to the street. So I just want to be clear that there was no intent to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Yep. To be honest, I think the anticipation was that by removing the circular drive, that the neighborhood would support the whole design better, because there had been some reservations about it earlier in the process. So by removing all that paving on the street side, it was always thought that would be a good thing. But that's when this all came about.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm just one board member, and I bike through this area, and I kind of struggle to see structures. I know it's considered a street side yard, but as to a layperson, as you're moving through the neighborhood, it appears as the front yard. So I'm struggling having this structure there. I think the planters and the patio space will be wonderful, but this particular piece, I am kind of struggling with that. But I'm just one board member.
Would it give you any more time to get more neighborhood support to go back to the Grahams and the other people to try to fix this issue? And then maybe get other neighbors in the area to approve what you're thinking about doing. So,
Mr. Ebbets, I think that's what we did last month and gave them that time to come here, is if they wanted to do that. And it sounds like the owners want to proceed with the design as is.
yeah,
Knows
I agree.
exactly
You're right.
what to do
Okay.
in the environment.
Yeah, I wish they had done that because, I mean, to me, I think it's kind of a cool idea to have a fireplace in the front yard, but, or the street side yard, but it just looks so big. And to me, if they'd made it smaller or pushed it back farther, I think I wouldn't have so many qualms about it, but it just looks big. So it
Can I
looks like,
ask a question?
Of this
Sure.
If we were to convert the fireplace from a fireplace to a fire pit and have it be the same height as the adjacent planters, would that be more amenable?
Would that require, I guess, Sir Stephanie or Anna, if that becomes a fire pit, does that still require a variance because it's part of a planter, or how would that work in our purview?
As long as it's not a permanent structure, it is permissible. But if it's like dug into the ground, I'm not quite sure. Anna, do you know anything about that?
Stephanie's correct. If it is affixed to the ground on this type of foundation, it is an accessory structure. The planters, I know we had conversations about them being removable, or they're determined as walls. Well, that's a wall. A fire pit is not a wall. It would be still a structure, even if the height is shortened. So it would need to be a temporary item that could be moved around, that would be permitted to be placed in the street side yard.
how tall are the planters?
28 inches.
Oh, well, that would be a completely different story to me, but.
Well, and that's, I feel like I feel like the regulation is wrapped in a little bit of semantics, because all the fire pit would be a planter with fire in it instead of plants. It would look exactly the same on the outside. You would have, from the street, nobody would know that it was a fire pit unless it was lit at night. And I've got to believe that's far more desirable than going to Home Depot and buying some ugly portable fire pit and sticking that there. We're trying to build something that's built in and integrated to the landscape architecture and the design of the home, and, you know, make it feel like it really was well thought out and designed to be a beautiful outdoor space, not necessarily go buy something that's an afterthought that you're just going to sit on a patio. And, you know, we were trying to treat it as this is a feature that as you approach the home or walk by the home, that it's something attractive that, you know, people really enjoyed to see.
Mm-hmm.
Can I speak for just myself on the block? In my
Very
opinion,
briefly.
in my opinion, a planter sized or that height would be very acceptable. It is the nearly, I mean, once you finish the cap on it, it is the nearly, 5.5, 6 foot nature and the heftiness of the existing plan that creates, a lot of concern. I guess my only concern then would be Patricia's concern, which is that then do people get to build, outdoor kitchens in the front yard and those kinds of things, and how do we protect our historical integrity in the neighborhood?
Trish, I see your hand raised. If you have a brief comment.
You're muted.
I'm trying to get off mute. Yes, thank you very, very much. And I do want to comment and circle back as we're talking about, not just the fireplace. Stephanie, the staffer, said the size of the patio was changed. Those were her direct words I heard a few moments ago. The contractor designer said they pulled the fireplace closer to the street in lieu of a circle drive. So the original plans of the courtyard or patio or whatever you want to call it was 11 feet. And now it's 21 feet, 3 inches. So that is the extension of this accessory, whether it's a mobile fireplace or a planter or whatever. I have deep concerns of a structure encroaching that close to the street, whether that's on the front of the house or the side of the house, but we can see that. So I want people to keep in mind that this is just, within a few feet, was 11 feet. Now it's 21 feet.
And I guess, Stephanie, if you can confirm based on what Mr. LeBlanc has stated, the patio and those walls would be allowed by code.
Yes, the patio and the walls be allowed. And then to clarify on the fireplace being an accessory structure, even if the size is reduced, the issue is they do need permits for the electrical side or gas, whatever they're going to use to power it. So if they build it and it's not permitted, when they apply for those permits, then the city will probably fail that review saying that that accessory structure was not permitted. So that's why they're here.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. I guess one comment I have, Mr. LeBlanc, I understand the intent was to keep this original design, but I think maybe this compromise is what we were hoping to get at last month when we requested a continuance, to hopefully come back and have a little more agreeable potential design to move forward with. But I will open up to any other board comments or questions and a motion for this case.
Chairman Mixdorf, I have a motion in case number 160. I recommend the board deny their request.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Hearing none. Do I have an alternate motion?
Well, let me ask, if we give you another month, Mr. LeBlanc and the owners, applicants, are you amenable to changing the size of it so it's not quite so huge? I mean, if that's true, I think they could possibly come up with a design that the neighborhood would be okay with. I mean, more in the line of the planters. And to me, that would be a better solution to give them another month. I know we've already given him time, but you know, if they're able to do that in a month, I'd move to continue it for a month.
My recommendation is to allow us to do a fire pit at the same height as the walls and planters that are there currently. Because that from the street, you wouldn't actually rather even know whether it was a wall or a planter.
But I think with that, then we'd want to see some revised plans or drawings showing your proposal to make sure we know what we're voting on.
And it would be good if you showed it to the neighbors so they could, you know, not have to come and object.
Try to get neighborhood support, Mr. LeBlanc. I have a motion. Let's continue this case for 1 month to our February meeting.
Second.
Anna, call the roll.
1 second, motion second. Ebbets,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
and Mixdorf.
Aye.
See you next month.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next case, docket item number 3.
Okay, we have docket item number 3. This is case CD BZA 2023-00163. The property in question is 1621 West 40th Street. This is a request to approve a garage on a, this is the way that the legal ad is written. Justin, or excuse me, Connor, will get into more of the case. A request to approve a garage on an infill lot plus any other additional variances on about 0.08 acres, generally located at 1621 West 40th Street. This case was also continued to this date to allow for the design team to change the proposals to alter the variance requests. Take it away, Connor. You're the staff planner.
Sure thing. Give me just a second here.
And Elevate Design is the applicant, so I'm sorry, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep, I need to swear them
Connor,
in.
I jumped the gun just a little bit. So we have
That's okay.
Sean and Sarah from Elevate Design. There are no additional exhibits from what we discussed last meeting because we did not receive revised plans for the deadline for the staff report. And Sarah and Sean are connected.
All right,
This is a reminder that if there's anyone else, a part of the public who wishes to provide testimony on the subject site, please raise their hand now. As public testimony has begun, no future attendees will be promoted to panelists.
Perfect. Sarah, I see you.
Thank-
Sean, if you could turn your camera on and unmute. Perfect. Administer the oath here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth during this meeting today?
I do.
I do, Sarah Ladd.
Thank you. Sean Plendemat, thank you. And then I guess since we heard this last time, we don't really need to admit, you said there's no new exhibits at this point in time, so we'll go to Connor if we want to review any additional pieces in the staff presentation.
Yeah, I can just revisit a couple of things here really quick. For CD BZA 2023-00163 at 1621 West 40th Street. The proposal was for this property here. It was a little bit interesting because it's the only property on this block face. Again, the existing conditions, the site plan that was proposed, and the elevation. There were two variances that were needed here. The first being a variance to the of 215 square feet to the minimum lot area requirement to permit a lot area of 35 square feet on the subject site. A substantial change to the character of the neighborhood is not anticipated. The difficulty cannot be obviated with a change of design just because that's how the land is. The second variance is not to permit a garage. They can have a garage on this lot. The variance is to the garage itself, a variance of 60% to permit a garage door to occupy 100% of the width of the ground level facade. The code only permits 40% of that ground level facade to be taken up by a garage door. So this would be a 60% deviation. As Anna mentioned, no revised plans were submitted to staff, and that provides or concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Connor. All right, Sarah and Sean, trying to remember kind of some of the requests from last month and maybe some other neighborhood insights or commentary. What do you have for us today?
First off, I would say we've kind of had we went a different direction here, not out of obstinance to the staff, but we had a question that had come up. I'd like to share my screen.
So this that would be what do we need to say this as an exhibit, or is this just code that we're bringing
It's
up
an
here?
exhibit. The main reason for meeting today is that
But Sean, I'm just gonna pause you for one moment. Anna, is this considered already a part of our exhibits, or does it need to be added as an additional exhibit?
This is a portion of the existing zoning and development code, so it's technically within Exhibit 1. If Sean, if you're highlighting or doing something different to this document, then we can admit it as an additional exhibit. But if you're literally just referencing it as a piece of the code, we'll just stick to it as Exhibit 1.
it's highlighted just for the presentation, but the main purpose of today is that one, I would say that I did not take action to speak with the neighborhood yet. And the reason why is that we had been stuck with staff. I followed up with Olifu on December 20th regarding the infill residential development standards. And I'm challenging the request for variance based upon 88-110-07 infill residential development standards, primarily on the context listed in this document, which indicates that infill residential lots on block faces with 2 or fewer developed lots, which in case Connor had mentioned at the beginning of this call, shall follow the conventional development standards. And based upon the conventional development standards, my building would qualify for this property.
Connor or Anna, can you provide some additional kind of clarity around that in regard to this particular lot?
Yeah, I can try to provide some, and Anna, if you have any comment, feel free to jump in. So this is the only lot on this block face. It falls within that 2 or fewer for conventional development standards reduced by 25%. So I guess Anna, would the width of the garage, would that percentage also fall under that 25% reduction?
No, it would not. The percentage of the facade still applies, which is in a different section than the infill residential standards. We're not disputing the fact that they can have a garage there. They can. It's the amount of space the garage takes on the facade.
I would say that would be contrary to previous lots with the same width, with the same plan. So based upon the conventional development standards as I built this home, I think there may be a misinterpretation based upon the previous approval by the staff itself.
Has this exact plan been brought forward to the board before for other properties?
No,
Okay.
but it's been approved multiple times in Manheim on the same lot widths. So the garage percentage front is irrelevant compared to the conventional development standards based upon the previous 5 that I've built.
And I guess were those previous 5 that you're mentioning, were those approved prior to the infill ordinance getting passed?
I would
Back in
say it's
early
irrelevant
January?
based upon the fact that the infill ordinance wouldn't apply in this situation based upon the rule listed here.
Yeah, I guess so. City staff, are we supposed to, understanding this, are they allowed to follow the conventional development then, where the only variance they may be looking at is still lot area and not for the garage then?
The garage variance is still needed because it is in the 400 series of the zoning and development code, so it is not subject to this reduction that is being referenced in the infill. But both variances still apply.
Okay.
Can you help explain that?
So when we do a review of a building permit, we're looking at items in the 100 series, the lot and building standards, and also applicable regulations in the 300 and 400 series. The facade for the garage door is within the 400 series, I believe. So when reviewing a building permit like this, we would catch that and say, oh, it's not compliant with the existing zoning and development code. They need a variance.
The driveway percentage has been questioned, but never the garage percentage. So why do we have the inconsistency now?
I don't think I think we're only talking about the garage, not the driveway.
I'm just telling you what my experience is based upon the review of the staff. So we had to wine glass the driveways because the driveway percentage was too much, but the garage facade was not the issue. So I guess what I'm saying
In
is
other locations.
based upon the conventional development standards, I don't understand why all of a sudden this would be different than any other decisions that has been made in the past.
Hold on, Connor, is that a question that is meant for us to respond to, board?
I think so.
Okay, all I can say is that permits or other reviews made in error in the past do not prevent city staff when receiving new building permits to accurately review the code.
Anna, for the conventional development, what are the garage maximums allowed?
40% of the front facade of a structure can be a garage.
Okay, so that's whether it's infill or conventional.
That is correct.
Okay,
Right, it's
thank you for
40%
that
all the time.
clarification. Okay.
Well, I guess I go back to the fact that like a day like today, there's no parking allowed on this street. And this person would have had to walk through 8 inches of snow, likely around a crowded street on both the east and west side to get to their home. And I understand it's a 2-car garage, but I'm trying to eliminate parking on street from 40th Street. And based upon the discrepancies that I see in this, I'm asking for the variance. And I wouldn't think it's out of context for the neighborhood either. As I've mentioned in the previous presentation, there's homes with similar designs and two-car garages in the same neighborhood.
And I think some of those are probably before we had the infill ordinance as well, which is why at least I was looking at some sort of support from the neighborhood that they are okay with this kind of development still continuing in their neighborhoods, because I know some neighborhoods have different stances on how things are being developed. I think that was kind of where my initial request kind of stemmed from.
Can you explain then which reference exactly? You said the 400 series. Where does it indicate the 400 series for the front facade? Like, can you the exact standard so I can understand that?
Anna, did you have that in front of you at this time by chance?
Anna or Connor?
I am searching for that portion of code now.
Okay.
I don't have it pulled up in front of me at
Oh,
this
yep.
moment.
Sorry, I'm muted. I'm pulling it up.
Oh, okay.
Sean, can I have you stop sharing your screen here for a moment?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got too many tabs up here. Bear with me. Hold on.
I know it's different if you're participating via a web browser versus the app too, so
I'm
the
all
spot
over the
can be in a
place, but
different
I'm sure I
location.
can get us fixed. Sorry. Sorry for the delay. Oh, here we go. Stop sharing. This is on the third screen. I apologize.
Perfect.
Excuse me. Okay, and everyone's gonna have to provide me with some grace because I was quoting the 400 series, but Connor was accurate in his original presentation where he talks about the facade of the garage. So it's clearly stated in the staff report in 88.1.1.10.07E that attached garages visible from the street may not occupy more than 40% of the width of the ground level facade. That exemption that Sean was showing about, which talks about the reduction of lot and building standards, which is in 88.1.10.06, which is different than the vehicular use infill standards, which is in the 100 series. So the vehicular use standards for every other property are in the 400 series, but the particular vehicular use standards for residential infill are in the 100 series, but in a different section, separated from the lot and building standards. So that's my error of misquoting the wrong portion of the code, but it is in the zoning and development code, section 88.1.10.07E, which is referenced in everyone's staff report.
Is that under conventional built development standards?
You have an infill lot. You don't have a context area, which means the lot and building standards are reduced by the 25%. That does not preclude the lot from the infill residential vehicular use standards, which is where this is coming from.
I think that's based upon an interpretation, because now it seems that we're utilizing infill when it's like we're balancing the line between conventional and infill based upon a timeline. And again, I'm not trying to get technicalities, but I do a lot of business in the area. I have another lot that's in Manheim that's going to be in a similar case. And again, I'm working to work with you guys to accommodate infill standards, and I will have new plans that are going to be like in Beacon Hill. I've purchased 5 lots last week. I guess what I'm asking again is on this particular lot, based upon the access, I don't want to waste people's time. Everybody's had a long day of going back and forth between conventional and development, conventional or infill, whatever it shall be. I'm asking to approve this one. If you don't approve this today, then I'm going to ask for a continuance to gain neighborhood support, but I don't really want to do that, obviously. But I know everybody's busy and I'd like to move forward. I just feel that we've been sent down this path without full answers from staff. And we should have had a clear answer on this, but no one could really figure this out, which has pushed us down the variance path. So I'm trying to work with you guys on this particular one. I'm asking for the variance based upon this rule. And if you're gonna decline me today for whatever piece you guys determine is gonna be to the favor of the infill ordinance, then I ask for a continuance for neighborhood support, but I'm just being honest that I don't have the time and I don't think it's necessary in this case.
Do you feel based on what Connor and Anna stated now that you have clarity on
No.
what is required for this project and for future projects?
No, because you're referencing infill development and then you were balancing between conventional and infill development. And it's all just on this one highlighted rule. So I think if anything, that rule needs to be reviewed for future. And based upon us working as a team outside of these meetings, the purpose of these variances was to see what was the frequency that was going to occur based upon the changes in the infill ordinance. And I believe that it's organic. It's requiring not only builder, but neighborhood feedback. And in this case, yes, I am leaning more on the law versus the philosophy of the law to help my case. But I am working with you on other properties, and I feel like nobody cares, but I will do 150 infill homes this year, and I'm doing plenty. I repeat that every meeting. I'm doing plenty to follow through with the infill residential development standards. And Elevate Design Plus Build has a positive reputation, and bailing out the city from a national home builder that has totally made a mess. We are fixing that too. So I guess all this to say is I'm working hard for the city. I'm asking you to provide me the variance on this lot.
Board members, what are your thoughts?
Anna, do we have a negative opposition on this from other people, homes association, things like that? Or
I
Connor?
have not received any opposition.
Thank you. I'd like to offer a motion. Ms. Mixdorf,
Go for it.
if there are questions from fellow board members. In case number 163, I recommend we approve the request in accordance with site plan and staff report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Anna, please call the roll.
Ebbets,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
and Mixdorf.
Aye. I am giving my eye reluctantly. I understand the work that you're doing, but I hope we can move forward and provide new plans that will meet these in different contexts of the city.
Amen to
that. We do have exciting new plans that are amending and working through the 2023 ICC codes that do not include garages. Thank you.
Perfect.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Anna, can you call the next case?
Walmart.
Yes. One moment, flipping to the right page. Okay. We've got docket item 11 now. This is case CD BZA 2023-00165. Property in question is 5621 Prospect Avenue. This is a request to appeal zoning violations related to an abandoned non-conforming sign on about 0.1 acres, generally located at 5621 Prospect Avenue. The applicant is Tara O'Leary, and the property owner is Harold Wallace. This is a reminder for anyone who wishes to provide public testimony or anyone who's a part of the applicant team to please raise your hand now so we can admit you, as additional people will not be moved over from attendee to panelists once the public testimony has begun. There's someone named Harry online, so I have admitted them. And bear with me while I get the rest of my documents sorted, because I am the staff planner for this case.
Hello, my name is Kerry Yoakum, and I am the general counsel for Link Media Outdoor, and I am here to provide testimony.
Perfect. Thank you. Anna, is there anyone else with their hand raised?
Seeing none.
Okay. Carrie, I'm going to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth during this meeting today?
I do.
And please state your name one more time for the court reporter.
Kerry Yoakum.
Thank you very much. Have you reviewed the staff report associated with your case? I guess if it's appeal, is there a staff report?
I have
Yes.
not seen a staff report, but I do have before me the notice of abatement order.
Okay, are you good with us proceeding?
Yes.
Okay. And then Anna, how many exhibits are associated with this case?
11.
11. Exhibits 1 through 11 are admitted. Anna, I'll turn it over to you to present the case.
Okay, so now we have docket item 11, case CDBZ 2023-00165. The property in question is 5621 Prospect Avenue. The site is zoned B3-2, which is a commercial zoning district. The applicants are appealing city staff's determination related to a legal non-conforming sign or a billboard in this particular case. So the property is located in the mid-eastern portion of Kansas City along Prospect Avenue. This is a close-up of the subject site. You can see that it is located on Prospect Avenue in between Prospect. And then we've got the right-of-way for Broussard Watkins Drive to the right, to our right on the screen, to the east. Some notes from the zoning and development code. So a legal non-conforming sign, like I said, in this case, billboard, if it remains blank for a continuous period of time, and it is deemed abandoned, it is not advertising a business that is active, then the property owner has 30 days to remove the sign. And advertising on the blank billboard is also deemed unacceptable. So per the staff reports and the investigation, the photo evidence supports that the billboard was indeed blank. Again, it is advertising a business or commodity, an event, any type of activity that is no longer operating or being conducted. There is no visible copy at all on the billboard. And as I've mentioned, advertising something to promote the blank sign, so for the sign to be rented, is also deemed blank. Here are some images from Google Street View. This is dated in 2022. So you can see that this billboard on the south side is blank. And on the north side, it does have an advertisement on it in 2022. However, in 2023, when the code compliance investigation was conducted, we can see that the south side is still blank and that the north side is also blank now. And here is a little bit of a close-up for a follow-up investigation. I do realize that there is a sun glare in that image that shows the north side, but it is blank. And the south side, again, remains blank in November of 2023 with a little sign on it that says available and a number on it advertising, the promotion of the sign being filled. So some key points from city staff, that the city staff inspected the site after a complaint was received. There is a blank outdoor advertising sign, a billboard as we call it, was observed on the site. Multiple follow-up inspections occurred and the sign was deemed abandoned, so thus the order to remove was sent. As previously mentioned, in appeal cases, we ask the applicant some questions about the merits of the case. And one of these talking points in that exhibit is attached to staff report, where the applicant does admit that city staff did not err in applying the code to this particular property, but that the reason why the sign was blank, not conforming with city code, is due to the fact that the property owner did not permit the sign company onto the property to fill the billboard sign. We know that the notice of violation was sent to the leasee of the billboard, not the property owner. And just a reminder that the appeal case, in order for it to be sustained, that the BZA has to find that the city staff have erred. From a city planning perspective, I do not believe that the zoning compliant city staff made an error in applying the code to the property as referenced in the photo evidence of the blank sign. That concludes my presentation on this appeal case. I usually also note that the supervisor for the zoning compliance staff can answer any questions as well, but due to the time of the day, I'm not sure if they're online. So let me stop sharing my screen and check real quick. Oh, James Eddy is still online. So if we have any additional questions about the investigation, we can direct those to him. But that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Board members, any questions for city staff? Hearing none. Mr. Yocum, why should we grant your request today?
Well, first and foremost, Link Media Outdoor does not own this. We do not have a current lease. There is no indication that we are the owner of this, except our name may be on that billboard and on this permit. When Link Media in 2018 purchased the assets of Wait Outdoor, this structure was not listed within the transaction. So there is no evidence that we own this except for this permit. We have not posted on it in many years. We have not paid the landowner any money for this. So my point is, we have tried to say we don't own this, and we are hung with this as our billboard, but it is not our billboard. We have gone so far as trying to work with the property owner to find a way that he can have this permit and do whatever he wants with it. And we've even offered him money for that, but yet he is not cooperative. So with this, even if we are ordered to remove this, we have no right of entry on this property. As I said, no lease, no access that we can trespass on somebody's property. We have no claim of ownership, as this was not listed on the transaction. We are in a bit of a pickle in the sense that we are being held accountable for this, yet we do not own this. So as far as the blank, if you, I have a little bit of a First Amendment issue that I could raise regarding the advertise here. But as I said, it's not my billboard to make those arguments with. So that is why I ask that we be relieved from this and the property owner be the proper person that is before the council.
Because I have a question of city staff. I don't think I've had a case like this before. Or Maggie, if you've got additional insight, what are the proper steps if we don't believe this individual, or if they don't own it, what can we do with that?
Well, it shows the owner. Was the owner notified of these proceedings?
Yes.
And they didn't appeal. So, if you're saying you don't own the property and you're the ones that appealed, I think we can dismiss the appeal and let the staff move forward with the enforcement against the owner, if that's who owns the sign.
If I may.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever worked as hard in my life trying to show that I don't own a billboard. Most of the time, people are trying to take our billboard. I personally have spent hours upon hours trying to get Mr. Wallace to understand we do not own this. I prepared documents for him to sign. To make things even worse, the Missouri Department of Transportation will not allow us to cancel the permit that we own because he will not sign it. So we're in a very difficult spot because we do not own this. I understand the permit is in our name, and I understand somebody put an imprint up there that says our name, but we do not own this by anything that I can, to the best of my knowledge, I can find.
Thank you for that clarification.
Does staff want to respond? Mr. Daddy, do you want to respond to?
I'll jump in. All I can say is if Mr. Carey online. If you do not wish to proceed forward with the appeal, I think we can dismiss it and proceed forward with the property owner. Because as we've all agreed, city staff did make an error, and you're not the team involved. It sounds like a very private matter between your group and the property owner, and this is not the appropriate place to make decisions about those items.
The only thing I would say with that regard, if I may, is that the permits are what's cited here, and we are listed as getting the notice of abatement. So that is my concern, is that our company is being noticed for this.
And if we dismiss this case, we can, and Duddy can jump in, we can issue additional notices of violation to the property owner.
Correct. We'll dismiss the notices for Mr. Yocum, and we will pursue the violations against the property owner.
Good.
Thank you.
So with that, board, do we have a motion?
So I move that in docket item number 11, that we dismiss the appeal because it's not the proper party of appealing it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second from Ebbets.
Second from Ebbets. Anna, please call the roll.
Ebbets,
Aye.
Goritz,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
and Mixdorf.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Yocum, for spending the time today.
It's been a day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well.
I would offer one recommendation here. I think it was case number 22 is an active construction site. I didn't know if we could possibly take that one out of order.
For a streetcar of Kansas City.
Sounds good.
Jason
Mr.
is
still
on
around?
the line.
Looking for him now. Yep, he's still online. Jason, are you available? I'm going to promote him and see what happens. Okay, as I am hearing, we're going to call docket item 22.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
There he is.
All right, sorry, Mike, I'm down to first world problems. I'm down to a single screen.
All right.
Okay, I'll get the process started. Excuse me. So we're looking at docket item 22. This is case CD BZA 2023-00171 for 17 West 38th Street. This is a request to approve a special exception to allow for a 6-foot fence on the subject site, plus any other needed special exceptions or variances on about 0.26 acres generally located at 17 West 38th Street. The representative from the city, which is Jason Waldron, is online. I've also promoted a Nick Statham, who I perceive to be a part of the applicant team. If there's anyone else from the general public who wishes to provide public testimony on docket item 22, please raise your hand now so we can admit you, as once the public testimony has begun, no further attendees will be moved over to panelists. Seeing
Hey,
none,
but Nick, let me-
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
And Stephanie Saldari is the staff planner attached to this case, and the 10 exhibits apply to this one.
Jason and Nick, if you could turn on your cameras and unmute. If you have that capability.
I should, there we go.
Yep, you're live. Getting Nick here as well. Perfect. If I could have you both raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth during this meeting today? Please state your name, and I do.
Jason Waldron, I do.
Thank you. And Nick, you're muted. Want to try one more time? Can you state your name for the court reporter? It appears Nick maybe is having some audio challenges. Can we proceed with a head nod on that regard? Is that acceptable, Anna or Elward? Oh, wait, looks like maybe he's got that in progress.
Nicholas, could you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Here, let me text him. And I can do high level if we don't have him. I
And
don't wanna
if he
keep-
doesn't need to provide testimony as well, we can proceed with you.
Let's put it this way. He's got the presentation. Let me do like kind of a high level, and if you all need additional facts, which I wouldn't blame you, that's fine. So where we're at here is
Well,
we've got-
before you get going here, I need to do a couple of other administrative items here. So, have you reviewed the staff report associated with your case?
Yes.
Okay, and then Ani said there are exhibits 1 through 10, which I will admit. And Stephanie, if you would like to give your presentation.
There we go. Okay. Yes, let me share my screen. Okay, so we got docket number 22, case number CD BCA 2022-00171, located on 17 West 38th Street, zoned R-6, and this is a request to approve a special exception to allow for a 6-foot fence on the street side yard on the subject site. All right, so the subject site is located down here on like southwestern Kansas City. This is what the site looks like here on the corner of 38th and Baltimore, highlighted in yellow. This is what the site will look like once construction is done. This is for the KC streetcar. And then this is the fence brought to you today. So here is a site plan. The yellow is a 6-foot fence needed. Initially, I did tell the applicants that they might need the special exception for this piece, but upon further review, that is behind the building, so technically that can stay 6 feet without this special exception. However, this section here will need the special exception that's adjacent to 38th Street. This part here, of course, is the rear yard, so it's fine. Okay, so this is a special exception request of 2 feet to permit a 6-foot fence on the street side yard. The special exception will not change the character of the neighborhood, and the difficulty could be obviated by a change in the sign. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie. Nick, are you want to maybe say I do and state your name if your audio is active now?
Nope.
Nick, we see your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
Technology is great, right?
Does staff know what type of building this is that they're? what
Yeah,
kind of-
Oh, I'm sorry, staff, not other staff.
Well, either one, I just.
Yeah, no, it's the purpose of of this particular building will just be, if you're familiar with the streetcar system, and sorry for the long-winded answer in advance, we've got a maintenance facility where we maintain all the vehicles at the very north end down by the riverfront. And so what this is this is an interim building, really just to house supplies and things. So if you were maintaining the line, you wouldn't have to drive all the way back to the original maintenance facility. This facility will not be used to maintain streetcars or anything like that, but think of it more as a storage facility. In addition, the site will also house one of the substations. Think of it as a big battery that helps charge the system and let electrify the lines for the streetcar to operate.
And why do
So
you
no
need,
loud noises would be the short answer.
why does it need a 6-foot fence?
That is really safety and security requirements because we want to protect people and keep them away from that substation, and then B, like I said, we want to secure the site. I would add that we have been working with the Old Hyde Park neighborhood from day one. We've made a number of, as a project manager, I'm happy to, but we've made a number of concessions to make the building context sensitive, including the fence itself, which will be an ornate fence.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Yes, can you please state I do and your name for the court reporter?
Nick Statham, I do.
Thank you.
And I would just add to what Jason said, the 6-foot fence was included in our historic commission submittal and approved as part of that application as well. So the 6-foot fence has been consistent with the design going back to day one. And just to reemphasize what Jason did state, we have met with Old Hyde Park and showed them that fence, including the proposed fence design. We had a touch base with them last month and showed that to them again and regained their support at that time too.
And Stephanie, the fence design is part of the plans that were submitted?
Yes, those it looks like the wrought iron fence is what they're proposing.
Board members, any other questions?
I have a motion if no one has a question. I move that docket item number 22, case number 171, that we grant the applicant's request in accordance with the site plan and staff report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? That second from Tom. Anna, please call the roll.
Ebbets,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Mixdorf.
Aye. Your motion is approved. Good luck with your project.
Thank you all very much, and I thank you for your service to the city today. Have a good night.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Yikes.
Board members, it is 5:04. I know there was a series of cases that we have not gotten to yet, but I would like your insight on how we proceed if we move these next cases to the February hearing, or if we're trying to hear any additional cases today.
Do you want to
Moving-
ask if any of those applicants have a need for it to be approved?
What's that?
So
Do
it
we
looks
want, if any of these applicants have a need for something to be approved today or this week?
Yeah, if anything else is under construction or has a sensitive timeline, it looks like we still have 46 participants on the meeting. It looks like we still have cases 15, 18, 19, and 21. Is anybody raising their hand, Anna?
No.
If nobody is raising their hand with an immediate need to hear these today, I would be open for a motion to hear these at the following hearing in February. Or any other motion you'd like to make.
So move them all to February with no fee.
I have a motion. Second from Ms. Moran.
Ebbets,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
and Mixdorf.
Aye. All right, we will hear these at the February 13th hearing.
Sounds great.
Thank you all.
Ready? It's warm down here.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Edward. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah. But Randy, thank you so much. Great job. Really.
You're back next month, don't you worry.
Yeah, Randy.
All right, thank you all.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.